Get up. Get up out of that foreskin. Come out of your shell, Pearl. Come out of your shell.
But it makes me look so glamorous.
Okay, Lee. What are we doing here? Who are we? What's going on here? What the fuck?
No, we're talking about shit that freaks us out as kids.
Great.
Baby!
Yes. Today on the SLAB, where we probe, prod, and postulate a topic of the audience's choosing. They have elected.
Yes, it's to us. So you guys have chosen childhood trauma, things that have fucked you up as a kid that maybe were supposed to and maybe weren't supposed to, but that's the psyche of a child because children are fucking stupid.
Yes.
There's any kids listening? Fuck you.
I was never a child. I'm that old. Glad I never was one.
Yeah, they didn't call them children in your day, Nathan.
What did they call them?
Sacrifice!
And the Gates of Babylon, yeah, all of that.
Human calves. What do they call baby apes?
I don't know. What do they call them?
I don't know.
I thought that was like a joke leading somewhere.
What do apes name each other?
I don't know, baby monkeys?
Okay, so childhood trauma. But like, would you say baby monkey? Like, I wouldn't say a baby dog.
Yeah, I don't know the term for a baby monkey. Look it up. Google, Mrs. Google.
Okay, Google, everything. What is the name for a baby monkey? I said, okay, Google. I'm off though, I guess. Okay. So childhood trauma, things that disturbed us as children, horror or not.
Horror or not. Yes, this was a topic that was sort of, there was a division in the voting system, but it was 2 votes that outvoted the others. So as a result, we're doing this. We're freaking ourselves out by going back to the things that fucked us up as kids, and yeah, and shit.
My oldest fear, the thing that I can remember, like, this is my Eldritch, my first Lovecraftian experience. It's the one where Monica puts the turkey on her head.
I know. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Talk about the turkey head. Go.
Nathan, you're afraid of bugs, so grow up.
At least mine is better.
Women with turkeys on their head are not good for the environment and do not provide sustenance to us, okay? I don't see Monica out here walking fucking nectar in nature. But anyway. So anyways, here it is. Picture this. The year is one. No, the year is like 2000, right? Monica puts a fucking turkey on her head. That shit sent me into a psychological spin. I couldn't handle it. She put it on her head. For some reason, it didn't freak me out as much when Joey did it because it was like accidental and he wasn't like walking about with it on. He didn't put glasses and a hat on it. But Monica got up and was like dancing with it and shit. She was making it like move and like jiggle and wiggle and shit. And then she put a fez and a big pair of glasses on it. That shit wrecked me as a child. I had never seen, and like, by this point, I had seen like horror movies and shit like that. I had seen like Nightmare on Elm Street and all this shit. I had seen Alien by this point. That was the most horrifying thing I had ever seen up until that point. I'm not even joking. I had like a Hitchcock experience with it where, do you remember in The Lion King? Like, are you familiar with the term Hitchcock zoom?
Yeah, where the person like stands in the foreground and the back pulls away. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember vividly when I saw Monica walk over to the boys' apartment with the turkey on her head, I remember vividly thinking to myself, like, no joke, This is how Simba felt when he saw all them wildebeest running down that canyon.
You had vertigo?
This is this. It was the same fear. I fully remember just being like, like not being able to take it.
And
I couldn't understand like what was going on.
and if you had to describe that fear, like how, in what way did it start off? What was it particularly about it that made you look at that and go, no, I don't like that?
Thank you, Dr. Nathan. I'll answer your question thusly. Um, I don't know what it was. I think it was like again, like being a child, it was like I'd never seen something. This is gonna sound so stupid, but like I'd never seen something like that shape before, where I was just like, like I just couldn't handle it because it's like the turkey, like the raw turkey on the head with the human body attached to it, just like psychologically scarred me. I was fucked up from that. Monica with the turkey on her head made me gay. No, but for real, it messed me up, and that like then became like my defining fear. Like if somebody was to be like, oh, like go to fucking bed or whatever like that, or you're gonna get in trouble. The thing would be like, go to bed or. And my family named it Turkey Head just because like that wasn't Monica. That was another entity all unto itself. You know what I mean? Like that was like the monster that lived in that apartment building. Um, the threat would be like, oh, like go to bed or eat your vegetables or Turkey Head is gonna get you. Just very vaguely, he's gonna get you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's the child catcher. You know what I mean? It's the same kind of thing of like, you know, when you were a kid, your mom would be like, "Behave, or the man is gonna come and take you away." Do you not ever hear that kind of shit?
Yeah. Or the man's
You know, like what are they gonna do? They're just gonna get me? What does "get me" mean? He's gonna really understand me on a deep level.
Yeah.
You know, Turkey just gets me.
I think if I was to first start talking about things that sort of freaked me out as a kid, I would have to go back to, now, this was one of my earliest memories, and I think this was possibly what kind of started the whole fear of bugs and spiders for me, because first time here on the pod, you heard it here first. I have a deep rooted fear of bugs and creepy crawlies and everything. I I'm not the type of person who would jump up on the chair and would be, oh my god, get it away from me. I would just be like, I need to leave the room. I'm that freaked out enough by it. And I think what really kind of started that off was the Discovery Channel used to have these like short 20 to 30 minute like quick documentaries that they had out on VHS. And because I was such a mythos nerd, I took out of the library one that was called Myths and Monsters, or Legends, Myths and Monsters, something like that. And I vividly remember the shot in my eye, like in my mind's eye. When I put that in, I was expecting like to hear about Frankenstein and Dracula and the Wolfman and all these kinds of things. Instead, I got this jungle scene with a big wooden creaking door in the center, and as it opens up, it's one of those close-up x-ray shots of a moving creepy crawly weird thing that just had so many hairs.
I didn't see you getting like
arms.
physically disturbed recalling this.
Yes, it was just oh god, it was so fucked up. I remember it vividly. I'm gonna stick it up. I swear to God, I'm gonna stick this up because it creepily moved. And you even said this to me before. There was something about the way spiders and these their ilk.
Well, they move at a different frame rate.
Yeah, they don't have they're not creatures with spinal columns, so they move in a completely different way than we do.
Nathan hates invertebrates. Wow.
Confirmed. And
no, it's so true though. It's like there's a thing that kind of like every animal, including us, is kind of like your brain is like trained to be freaked out by spiders. Spiders kind of specifically.
Yeah.
Because they move. It looks like like if they were on a, what's that thing, a zoetrope where there's like the frames, like frame by frame, it looks
Yeah.
like somebody's just taken a frame out in
And
their
it's
movement, that they don't move quite as like smooth. Like it's like it's you know, some people are afraid of like stop motion stuff like that, where it's
yeah,
like just gonna freak them out because it moves differently, or like by bad CGI,
yeah,
because it like it looks almost right, but it isn't. Something in your mind is telling you like something is off here.
yeah.
You know, it's like that caveman brain that kind of stayed with us.
And don't get me wrong, like when it comes to like money spiders and things like that, I don't have a fear of the really really tiny ones, but it seems to be the big ones that really just really fuck me up. And like you have things like the tarantula and its cousin, the bird eating spider, that can be the size of a fucking dinner plate, that can scare the absolute bejesus out of me. And it's also not that, like, but the eyes, the fact that it doesn't have a perceivable
I
jaw.
just got a
You just
shiver.
shuddered. Oh my
Just
god,
shivered.
you just
Yeah,
shuddered. Like the fact that there's
yeah.
eyes. There's no perceivable actual mouth. It's just three or four pincers, just like chewing on its prey. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
sick.
like all the hair, and like I know I found this out like just by like doing a quick little bit of research, but here's a tidbit for you. The bird eating spider, when it's threatened by bigger hunters, or bigger threats, it sheds most of its hair, and the hair causes allergic reaction in the skin and paralyzes the hunter, so the spider can eat that. It's
Mhm.
just so creepy. And in Spain, there is a dance inspired by the tarantula called the tarantilla, and it's meant to be excuse me, it's meant to be performed by a person who's bitten by a tarantula in order to it's a frantic dance basically that you do in order to expel the venom as quickly as possible. Normally, it would just distract you from the pain long enough for the bite to subside, because tarantulas don't have any venom. It's just the pain of the bite itself. So,
Yeah.
like you wouldn't die from a bite of a larger. Normally, the bigger spiders don't have any venom. It's normally the smaller ones that do. Which, yeah, it just sort of brings me to that whole like creepiness of bugs and like, you know, yeah, I'll never forget it. It's that shot for sure that really just kind of set that in my brain, and I'll never forget it. Never.
I can imagine you. Do you remember that episode of Simpsons where Homer like brings home a lobster that he wants to keep as like a
Yeah.
pet or whatever, and he's looking at it, and it's like this like anime like it's like this like cute little lobster, and then he
Yeah.
shows it to Marge, and it's like
Hum, hum.
it's like
Yeah. Yeah, it's
which
very
is
that.
weird because like I think it was in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Dee's like, "That's not a lobster, it's a sea scorpion." Like that's so fucking creepy.
Sea scorpion.
Well, yeah, it's like it's weird the idea that like people will eat like prawns and stuff like that, but nobody would eat a locust. Like people would be grossed out by eating a locust, even though
Yeah.
it's like prawns are literally just insects of the sea. They're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So
Before.
fuck bugs. I even said that to
Before.
you yesterday. I want to make a T-shirt that says "I fuck bugs" on it, just because I think
You're
that would
not
be so
doing it.
funny.
You're not doing that. It's
I'm gonna
not
do
going
it.
to
That's
happen.
the first round of our merch.
Before we move on, the last thing I
Moving
really do
swiftly
want
on.
to before we move on, the last thing I do want to say about that one thing is how innate the fear of spiders is in our subconscious, and how it pervades to like monster movies from like the 50s and the 60s, of how like the fear of them suddenly becoming larger than life and like eating us and things like that.
Leo Carol was over a barrel when Tarantula took to the hills. Yeah.
Boom, boom, yeah. Children, when we're born, like we aren't born with an innate fear of spiders. It's normally a reaction from an older person that causes this, like it causes like, what did the person say? It's something like to activate this like remnant of primal terror that comes from our ancestors towards like
It is. It's
being.
truly evolutionary.
Yeah, it really
Like that's
is.
for like most animals. It's like that saying that it's like people who weren't afraid of spiders didn't live.
Yes.
People who weren't afraid of snakes didn't live because they didn't keep distance. It's like,
Yeah.
um, especially because like pretty much everywhere has like some form of like spider. Like everywhere has bugs. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not like a localized fear. Like
Yeah.
everybody has like some spider experience, and it's that old thing of like you're due maybe like one or two like really creepy spider experiences like a year. Like if you have one where you like find one in your tea or some stupid shit like that, you're like, okay, it's safe because that won't happen to me again for a while. Nobody has two bad spider experiences in like a week.
Yeah.
I one time found a live spider in a bag of crisps.
Oh God. No. No, don't tell me that. That's
But like
nasty.
in the crisps, I opened the bag of crisps and I was like eating out of like such, and I pulled my hand out and there was literally like a black spider on my hand.
Oh no. Can't. I can't deal with that. That's too
Even I was
much.
threw up there. I fully saw you just like,
Oh no. No.
oh. Now I think like I'm okay-ish with spiders, but it's like once a spider starts to get like hairy, then like my like skin kind of crawls a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
And like speaking of like how these can be like sort of primal fears and things like that, like you have like monsters and things appearing out of the subconscious like more than like what 4 or 5 thousand years ago, like in cave paintings. Like these monsters emerge from the human psyche often, like you were saying before, like how our brain makes the worst monsters like in our dreams. In this, like when you experienced Monica with the turkey man head, like that is the human subconscious creating that innate fear in you. And like it all stems back to, like, I mean, you even look back to the classical Greeks, like they devised a whole menagerie of monsters that came out of their innate fear of the unknown or the subconscious. And I think that's why children have such fears of, like, not just like the classical monsters, but just things that they don't understand. I mean, like, you had things like the Cerberus and the Minotaur, which feasted on the flesh of men and virgins in a labyrinth, and you had Medusa, like the fear of not understanding feminine power, and like all of these types of things. So like it really does make sense that like humans create monsters and innate fears out of what we don't understand. And I think when you talk about that in context of childhood traumas, it only makes perfect sense, because children like us, when we were at our ages, very very young, like we had less obviously grasp on the material world. Of course we had fears of like what horror movies would be, but like we would also like you said, with claymation or like weird music videos or things like that, that we just couldn't really get our head completely around, and it would scare us. And yeah, it just it makes sense. It makes sense.
It's not even really that like kids are stupid or anything like that. It's that like kids' minds are like sponges, and like kids have like kind of like the most vivid imagination, even with like such limited kind of cognitive tools. You know what I mean? Kids aren't bound by that isn't real. You know what I mean? Or like there's no way that could happen, because like they just don't know.
Yes.
In a way. And like I know we were kind of just about to touch on the uncanny valley theory.
Yes.
Which is really creepy, and again is kind of like an evolutionary thing. Like so much stuff in our heads is still left over from caveman days. You know, it's the idea that like Homo sapiens, fuck hetero sapiens, I'm joking. No, but like Homo sapiens, like we were not the first like ape-like creature to fully walk upright and look like us. You know, it's the idea that like we recognized things that looked like us but weren't us, and were terrified of them, and then made it our job to eat and kill those people, like to get those things out of existence. Like that's the thing. There could be so much more so many different types of hominid, like humanoid, upright walking creatures on this earth, except for the fact that we're like, no, fuck that, cut
Yeah.
that, it's a wrap. Let's get rid
Yeah.
of those. So now the idea of like our brain still tries to figure out like the shape of a man in
Yes.
things where it's not there. It's the idea that like a pile of clothes on your chair at night could look like a man sitting in the corner of your room,
Yeah.
or okay, this is going to be slightly long-winded, but it's not going to be terrible. Me and my friends used to go to this one park and like smoke cigarettes, quote unquote. But there was a log that looked exactly like one of our friends. This is so dumb. Looked exactly like one of our friends, right? But we all like agreed that it looked like a girl that everybody used to know that nobody kind of enjoys anymore. We all agreed that it looked exactly like her, but that was like all of our like, and then like getting up close to it doesn't even remotely look human, but it's like from a certain angle, all of us agreed like that looks like a human and a very specific human. You
Yeah.
know, it's like your brain is still consistently trying to like anagram like things together to be like to identify what it is and to identify like, is it a man, is it a threat, is it an animal, is it alive, is it going to eat me, can I eat it, can I kill it before it kills me, kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Like these are things that our brain doesn't necessarily need anymore, but like you can't kind of just get rid of it, you know.
Yeah. I actually have something like that's so interesting that you should mention about like the fear of like those pile of clothes over there being like a man, or like the fear of something under the bed or things like that. So research has found that innate in girls all across all cultures have found that in younger girls they fear what might come from underneath the bed, and that's because way back when females roosted up in trees, they feared what came from below, and then the opposite was for boys. They feared what might come out from the side of the room in the corner or from the window. You know, scratch, scratch, Salem's Lot, Dracula, all that kind of thing, because
Yeah,
men, or at least males, were protective number one of the females, so they would have been on the ground and they feared a sneak attack from all corners, all sides. So it makes sense that like
yeah,
those sort of fears for when you're younger, like, oh my god, pulling your covers up, being like, that shadow that just moved across the wall, what the fuck was that, when it was actually a light from a passing car outside. Do you know what I mean? So it makes
yeah,
sense that
yeah.
fears like that like really just kind of push forward or like lay the groundwork for that kind of uncanny valley theory. And the first one I want to talk about specifically, like what you just said there, is Aphex Twin and Come to Daddy. This music video fucked me up. And I want to say that in the nicest way possible, because that song is actually the shit. I love that music, and I
I was gonna
love the
say, but
music
I
video.
actually really like Apex Twin
Yeah.
though, and like now I've really come to like enjoy the videos and the aesthetic
Yeah.
of Apex Twin, you know.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. That video in particular, I feel like that's the one. Like that is the one where people are like when you were younger. I remember this like being kind of like right at the start of YouTube. It was like 2007. This would be
Yeah.
the kind of thing where it's like you want to see a scary music video, and this is what you would show to your friends.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You get like that like top 5 scary music videos or things like that, and this would be one of them. Essentially, like the plot of this film is some old granny out of a flat is walking her dog, or I think she's going to collect shopping or something like that, and she comes across a TV who all of these little kids are obsessed with, and they're all little girls. They're all little girls, and they pick up this TV, and it's obviously the singer, but like he's just screaming, "I want come to daddy," all of that kind of thing, and these kids
Yeah.
revealed
So,
to have the same face of a man, and like my brain just I just don't, I didn't know how to like comprehend what I was looking at. I just knew that doesn't look normal. Something's wrong with it, and it scared the hell out of me. And especially the ending, did that whole like he crawls out of the
yeah.
TV. This emaciated, uh, thin, very pale skinned being is like birthed out of this TV, and like he stands up and he's like, I want to say 8-9 feet tall, and he's towering over this like 5'5" granny with her dog who has like scarpered at the sight of this thing. And he just it's just the end of the song, and he opens his jaw to an obscene amount, opens up, and he screams so hard into this granny's face that the flabs of her cheeks start to blow.
Yeah, it's like blowing her skin around and stuff.
And it just ends. He's just like hunched over her, screaming in her face. Oh, it terrified me. It really did.
That's another thing that kind of why we're so afraid, and like why as kids, without kind of knowing anything, why we have these kind of innate kind of instinctual fears. It's like and this is like, again, like very much so like a reason why I always used to like paint myself super pale, and why I still do. It's like I like to kind of give off that look. It's like the human psyche associates pale skin with like being sick or being dead, or just being like generally unhealthy. So it's like when we see things like that, our mind immediately like kind of goes to like, is this a threat, or like what is wrong? Like something is out of the ordinary. And like kind of talking about, I actually didn't have this written down, but one that really fucked me up as a kid was Michael Myers, and like the effect that they went for actually like very much so paid off, because the entire point of them having that blank mask and having him kind of not move in a human way, move like a monster. Like he didn't like run or anything like that. And the way he sat up was very kind of reminiscent of Dracula, like very kind of like an unnatural way. But I remember as a kid, and I know that you agree with me on this, seeing like Halloween 4 for some reason in particular fucked my shit up. And as a child, like I lived in an area where kind of like all of the back gardens were actually kind of the front gardens, so everything kind of faced out towards each other in kind of like an alleyway kind of way. And like that's how I would have to walk home, and like my mind would be like identifying all of these shapes, being like, that's a man, that's Michael Myers. Like anything with like a flash of white in it, my mind would like register as like a man wearing a mask. Or I remember so vividly, and this really freaked me out. I think this is like one of the last times I remember like waking the whole house up, like screaming for my mom to like come into my room, because I thought I was gonna be fucking murdered or whatever. And I saw like something in the corner of my room that was white, and like my mind just point blank registered like, there's a murderer in my room, and that's him right there, you know. Even though it's like it's not even remotely what it was, my brain was just like beep boop boop boop, like identifying threats where there was none. You know. Like fucking hell, it's so scary. Now if I was to find Michael Myers coming into the room,
completely different story.
For real.
Come to daddy.
Got me like a fish daddy. Yeah, for real. Yeah, for real.
And if you want to hear more of our thoughts on Michael Myers, please go to our retrospective playlist and see the first ever episode of the podcast, Halloween. So if you want to hear some really, really fucking funny thoughts on Michael Myers, please go and check it out, because it's so much fun. We'll leave some links in the description below.
Michael Myers, sit on my face.
Especially with those weird long distended arms that don't make sense in a shot.
Oh, so I would let Michael Myers choke me out.
Okay, girl. Human Chair of the Week is for the retrospective episodes. Thank you.
No, I'm the human chair of Michael's week. I want Michael to sit on my face.
Michael's a year. Okay, the other music video that I really I almost immediately go to as number one of the scariest things. I always remember, like, my brother Ryan was always so into this video. Number one, because the music is fucking sick. I love The Prodigy. But Firestarter, it was so...
Yeah!
Like, there was something innately about a guy... not because like I don't even think in my mind's eye it registered as makeup or anything like that, but the fact that he just had the whitest eyes and the darkest rings of black around his eyes, and he was dancing around like this, up and back and down, up and back and down in a London Underground tube station. It frightened me. It really did. There was something about it, and I remember vividly sitting in the front sitting room, and I would, as soon as that song would come on, I would literally go behind one of the couches and hide. It scared the hell out of me because it made me feel like he was watching me.
What a fucking bop.
Oh yeah, it's
What
an
a
absolute
tune.
bop. I love that song, but it made me feel like because I think it was the intensity of the eyes, but it made me feel like he was watching me. Do you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't just like at the camera, he was watching you, you know?
Watching me? Yeah.
So
Where
it
is
was,
Keith Flint, by the way?
yeah, we love Keith, so keep it up, man. Keep
Well,
it
kind
up.
of sticking to music videos of the day, I feel like they don't do that anymore. They don't make music videos that traumatize people anymore.
Yeah.
Because these are all kind of like of the same era. Mine was the Chemical Brothers, the video for Hey Boy, Hey Girl. And for some reason, as a child, like kind of like
Still.
heavier dance music, like for some reason kind of frightened me. I think it was like the intensity of it or something like that really kind of made me be like not into it at all.
Yeah.
But like again, it was like I feel like that's kind of the sign of like a true horror lover, like Stay With Me and You, that it's like you find what scares you and you keep finding it.
Yeah.
You keep watching it.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to, but like some weird little like masochistic thing in your head is like, go watch that again. Scare the shit out of yourself.
Yeah.
You know? But the video for Hey Boy, Hey Girl by the Chemical Brothers just messed me up. And like I think it's the same kind of thing for you with Firestarter, where it's like the music itself also is creepy. It just is creepy sounding music. You know, it's the kind of music that like you like think like somebody would get chased to. You know what I mean? It's like what a killer is listening to in his headphones. But the video, Hey Boy, Hey Girl, if you haven't seen it, it's about this chick who can see like in like a weird X-ray vision where like she sees people like as skeletons.
Yeah.
And there's one scene in particular where it transitions from her being a little girl into her being an adult, but she's like looking up like at like the bathroom light or whatever like that at her arm, and like then it kind of like strobes and it becomes a skeleton arm.
Yeah.
And then she's in this club with a grown up, but it's like the music that was going at the time is like like it sounds like something building and kind of rising kind of behind you. And then she's in this nightclub and she looks out and everybody is just a skeleton, and it's like strobing and like it, oh god, it fucked me up. But it was like probably my most watched music video like as a kid. Like it was so fucked up. I don't know why we did it for ourselves, where we literally would torture ourselves with things that scared us. But it's like I love that feeling of being scared, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's the point. I never get why people are like, I don't want to watch a horror movie, it's too scary. That's the entire point. That's exclusively the point.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say, is that innate like as horror lovers, you and I have this insatiable appetite for the forces like of our subconscious and our conscious brains to dream up even more fears and scares and things like that continuously like we were saying before, like we got so tired of jump scares and things like that. We were looking for more deeper scares, things that like really do freak us out, not just because like it jumped out, boo, it freaks us out and it stays with us. We don't want to forget about it 10 minutes later after watching it. We want to continuously be freaked out by these things. And I think that's exactly what these music videos did, is like we wanted when we first seen them, we didn't know what we were looking at. We were freaked out. It was strange to us, but it sort of made us who we are, and it developed our taste and our love of the weird and the wonderful, and like exactly what you just said there, that whole kind of wanting to go see a horror movie. Oh no, I'm too scared, or it's too scary. It was like, but if you're going to a horror movie,
and good, that's
good.
It's
That's
doing
the
its
whole
job.
point. Like, you don't want to be
Yeah.
going to a horror movie and bored because it's not interesting. That defeats the purpose. So yeah, I
Yeah.
totally get it. I think it's really kind of like excellent versions of things that really like freak us out, and why they freak us out. I think it's really good.
I kind of always looked at it like as I got older, like kind of like coming into being a teenager. I kind of looked at it because like things still freak me out, you know. Like I'm not even gonna lie, I made it like very like well known that like after we watched Jeepers Creepers again, I was just like a little bit more freaked out, and like I don't know why. Um I think like I was less freaked out by Jeepers Creepers when I was actually a child because I kind of still really couldn't like exactly identify what I was looking at or kind of what was going on. But then like the idea of, again, it's a primal thing. The idea of just being snatched and being eaten is like
Yes.
kind of like a, and like even though like I know that shit isn't real, but my brain is still like on alert for something that could just come out of the sky and swoop me up and just be gone,
Yeah.
you know. But I kind of like the idea that like kind of forcing yourself to do this and like, but it's not forcing because I genuinely love being scared. It's just a lot of fun,
Yeah.
you know. But it's like the idea that you're kind of flexing your muscle, you're kind of growing your muscle, you know, which again I think is to our benefit and to our detriment as well, where I think we were kind of like we spoiled ourselves as children because we
Yes.
kind of like shit doesn't really scare me nowadays because I kind of got over all of that like years and years ago, you know. It's like I'm still afraid to go downstairs like at night like without the lights on, but that's not because I think that there's going to be like a ghost. It's because I
Yeah.
think somebody could be down there, you know. It's like, and again, it's like humans are afraid to be are trained to be afraid of the dark because we don't see in the dark.
Yeah.
That's like our skill set kind of ends there,
Yeah.
you know. And it's the idea of the unknown, the idea of
Yes.
not being able to see. It's the same reason why people are afraid to go swimming in deep ocean because you can't see everything underneath you, you know. The
Yes.
idea of this like vast emptiness, that anything could be down there,
Yeah.
you know. We still have no fucking clue what's in most of our ocean, you know. There could be Cthulhu could be living down there and we wouldn't know,
I
you know.
I
Cthulhu, where
always
you at, girl? Yeah.
I
Where the
always
fuck have you been?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. We both you, me, and my brother, we came out of the lighthouse and we were just like we were speculating that ending about spoiler alert Robert Pattinson fucks a light bulb. But
Yes.
we were so like confused as to what does it mean? Does it mean this? Does it mean that? We were like, yeah, it means fucking Cthulhu. And then we got into this whole like spiel about like what would happen if Cthulhu showed up. And you and me were both just sitting there. We were like, you know what? While everyone else would be losing their shit and going crazy because that's
Hey,
what
girl,
you're, yeah.
where you been?
When, like everyone, because
Long
like
time no see, bitch. Yeah.
because like everyone would be like because that's what it says in like the Cthulhu mythos, like once because you can't comprehend this creature you would just go insane almost immediately
Yeah.
seeing this thing. So like I just remember you saying like what would we do? We'd literally just light up a cigarette going where have you been, bitch?
Yeah, exactly. Where the hell were you? You're late.
You're
Yeah, exactly.
20 minutes late.
And I know the Lewis is every 3 minutes. Where the fuck were you?
Or just literally, hey girl,
No, actually,
hey.
one of the first things we said when we came out was the aspect ratio,
Yeah.
though. And then I was like, oh my god, we're such snobs.
Yeah,
and then proceeded to like come out and go to the Lewis stuff with everybody else who had just seen this movie and just like the black and whites were so rich. Oh, you know, like just couldn't get over it.
Yeah.
Go see the Lighthouse. Watch the fucking Lighthouse if you can.
Yeah. If you want us to retrospect that, we will do it. Let us know in the comments below. But speaking of the thought now has gone completely out of my head. But speaking about TV and film and all of this kind of thing, I wanted to very quickly touch on two things that really kind of like how do I say it kind of messed me up and we were speaking about this prior to this was I think you actually brought it up first, was the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And
That's my second. That's my second
yeah,
note.
yeah, was Papa
Oh,
Lazarou. Now, Papa Lazarou, for context, is there's no kind of clear sort of telling as to what this being is. We just know that he's essentially a man with very long black curly hair, and his face is painted as a minstrel, as a like essentially blackface, but with a white mouth.
it's essentially blackface, but I always kind of looked at it as like a weird inverse version of a clown, because
Yes.
it's like his skin is painted brown, and around the eyes and around the lips are painted white, very much so in a minstrel form.
Yeah.
But that kind of doesn't like play into it. Like he doesn't actually like do any kind of
racist
shit.
impressions
like,
or anything like that. Yeah, yeah.
I know exactly what clip you're also talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly the scene, because it also I like remember watching this at like 13 and literally being like, like I just it was something so frightening and so simple.
Yeah.
Because he's just human.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the clip?
Yeah, so you and I, like, I think this, let's be fair, let's be, like, very transparent about this. I think this episode was mainly inspired by the 100 Greatest Scariest Moments. If you've ever watched it, go fucking watch it. It's brilliant. And
well, I think people think of something different when they talk about when they talk about this. There's a Bravo version, which is an American list, which is just movies. And then there was kind of a UK, more European version, which was kind of all media, like movies, television, ads, radio, whatever it is. So one was a little bit more comprehensive, but yes.
So, like, for context of this scene, Papa Lazarou, it's Christmas. Hello, Dave. He says that a lot. And he also coughs up fur balls. Do you remember that? He coughs up fur balls, which is weird. So what happens is this mother calls.
Oh, and he's got black eyes, by the way. Sorry, just to interrupt. He's got black eyes.
Pure,
like all
black eyes. Pure,
like pure square.
Fucking terrifying. So
100% black eyes. Cut that.
So the mother, it's Christmas Eve, I believe. The mother calls up to her child, and I think she says, "Jenny, look who's here, Santa," or something like that. And the kid is in the banisters, coming down the stairs, and she sits there on the steps.
It's so creepy.
And she opens the door, and then all of a sudden the mother's face goes from delight to absolute horror. Now, for whatever reason, you don't kind of realize it until suddenly, like, Papa Lazarou pulls the Santa beard down, because he is in full Santa drag, and he comes in and he snatches the mother.
You're my wife now. Oh, God.
And it's so creepy because the camera is moving in and out, forward and back, at the kid who's like literally clutching onto the banisters, and at Papa Lazarou, who's like grasping the mother around the neck in the elbow.
Taking this first mother open.
And he's got his mouth open, and he's like wagging his tongue, like, and his finger at the child, like fully not just traumatizing that child, but me, you, any other fucking 12, 13-year-old that fucking saw this clip and was horrified at what we were seeing.
I like literally remember, like, it's so stupid. It's like that moment was like my 9/11 or some shit. It's like I remember, like,
oh my God, what did you just do?
No, I remember. No, it's that moment where, like, I remember, like, exactly where I was. I remember, like, exactly like what time it was and everything when I saw that like clip. And like, again, like, I kind of got like low-key obsessed with that character after the fact, and like went and like found all the clips that I could of this man, and like low-key makes me laugh now, but also is still very, very fucking creepy.
Yeah.
And like just to like just to show how woke I am, I've always been afraid of minstrels. Like, just kind of staying on that. The Al Jolson story, all of that. Just registering that, where it's like, because like I'm like blackface, right? like it just doesn't look like a black human. It just doesn't. I don't think anybody was ever under the illusion that it did. So like seeing that as a child, again, kind of in that uncanny valley kind of thing. And I think it's kind of the same reason why people might be afraid of clowns. It's the idea that it's like it's the shape of a person, but the face is not right.
Yeah.
Something is wrong with the face. So my like childhood brain is registering that as a threat.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is, and in my mind, that thing is gonna just take me away.
Yeah.
It's going to snatch me up and do like my brain didn't even have the tools to think of like fucked up things at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
and that's exactly what happens. He ends up kidnapping the mother, and the child is left traumatized at the stairs, and he throws her into his Santa, quote unquote Santa sleigh, and he rips the finger, the ring off of her finger, and he's clutching it in his hand, and he looks like he's shaking with rage, and his yellow teeth are bared in this horrible, like, twisted, like, grin of, like, a white smile, but, like, a snarling mouth. And he just, like, with utter glee, he just turns to her and, like, completely black eyes and says, "Oh, you're my wife now." And then a maniacal laughter as he cracks the whips. And, like, they ride off into the snow. And when I had seen that, and like you just said there, it's the same with clowns. Like that was my moment of, you know, vertigo. Like, oh my god, what was that? It freaked me out, and I remember like having vivid nightmares. I didn't even know what that show was. I didn't know what it was about. I only seen that for the context of that scene, and I didn't know what it was. I was utterly horrified and terrified. I think I even left the room crying as to how scary that was. I never registered on an emotional level or like a mental degree of understanding what it was. And it stayed with me. It purely stayed with me for that reason. And I've never forgotten it right up until this day. I've never forgotten that scene.
You know, neither. It's so creepy. And I actually do highly recommend A League of Gentlemen. It's like, the show is genuinely hilarious.
Yeah, the humor is great.
But also it's genuinely terrifying. Like, it is kind of a horror-based type show. There's, like, they get into, like, vampires and all this kind of stuff. And, like, it is actually, like, super, super funny. But, yeah, I remember that just, like, fucking me up. But clowns was one thing that, like the world is divided. You either are afraid of clowns or you don't give a fuck, and you're not afraid of clowns at all. Clowns never so much freaked me out. But like I know, like, you kind of were affected by clowns.
Yeah, you see.
How were you personally affected by clowns?
Because they were red-haired like me. I thought I was the only red-haired person here.
Oh, but drag queens are fine. If a clown has a nice unit on, then it's different.
Yeah.
If the clown has nails, then it's different.
Yeah. You know something else is going on. Can I get a gay man? So, when it comes to clowns for me, when I was much younger, yes, just like what you said there, the smile is painted on, but my mind is also registering the actual mouth of the person, and the mouth of the person is not smiling, and that's what freaked me out. Because it said something to me that the face paint is saying he's happy, but his mouth is not. And it just, to me, it came across as a level of malevolence and deceit that just scared me.
Like,
and yeah, like, it's like, is he sad? Is he angry? Is he thinking like scary thoughts? Is he going to take me? All these kinds of things, and I think that was only further reinforced when I'd seen the 1990 It miniseries, and that only further reinforced that idea, of course, because number one, obviously, it's an extraterrestrial demon in the guise of a clown, but I have since then I have grown out of the fear of clowns. Like, if there was a clown around me, I wouldn't be bothered by them at all. But back then, yeah, it absolutely did. It terrified me. And when I remember being in, like, you remember those circuses that would come to, every now and then, every few months, like maybe once in the summer or so. And I
Yeah,
would
that people would go for like
pray.
Little Valley.
I would love, and I'd absolutely love to go to the circus, but when I got there, I would immediately get this sense of dread of like having a clown walk up into the audience or something like that. It would terrify me. It really, really would. Other than that, like I'd be delighted with what I'd saw, but like I'd be always terrified of seeing a clown come up into the audience or wave at me in a weird, strange way. Do you know what I mean? It terrified me. It really did.
I found out that elephants had boobs at the circus. And that messed me up. That's psychologically. But no, now, I actually remember my granddad kind of like, again, like my family is kind of like weirdly morbid with things, especially when it came to like me as a kid. Like my family loved to like impart some kind of like morbid wisdom onto me, which I like. It's kind of like a huge reason as to like why I'm into like true crime and all that kind of shit now, because like it always piqued my interest. But I remember my granddad telling me like how clowning used to be, like back in the day, where it's like
Yeah.
if another clown like copied your paint, you would fucking kill him. Like you would stab his shit up. And like now I enjoy the idea of like this like weird kind of like seedy underbelly to like something that's like exclusively for children. I find that
Yeah.
kind of entertaining. But like I remember in the day being like, lucky that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
But like also that's kind of cool. You know what I mean?
Well, the other thing I wanted to really talk about was sort of weird adverts or things that just generally weren't meant to be scary, but just were sort of unsettling in a weird way as I was a kid. And one of them, in very much in particular, I remember vividly was the ad for a vodka brand. I think it was Smirnoff. I'm not 100% sure, but it was The Tale of the Judder Man. Do you remember that?
You saw this off that Channel 4 countdown as well.
No, no, no. It wasn't the
Yeah,
Channel 4.
yeah. Because I'm
No,
almost certain this fucking vodka is like a Swedish ad.
no, because it was on. You know how I know it it was
Old.
on the Sleepy Hollow VHS tape. It freaked me out because it showed up and it showed up out of nowhere. Like I knew Sleepy Hollow was a scary movie, but this man, this thin, completely like from the neck down, completely covered in like this black, shiny kind of suit with long spidery fingernails and like this pointed jaw and like head of like icicles growing up out of his head. I looked at it and I thought, oh my god, this is literally a guy that like, and he also moves like a spider. He doesn't move like a normal human being. His walk is exaggerated. He lifts his knees. He moves like this to kind of like sways side to side to entice you into his like den of all these other people who have been clearly ensnared by the Judder Man. And like this guy, like when he catches someone, he does this
With
thing.
his smile and everything.
Yeah, like he catches someone, and like he like freezes up in a weird way, and my mind just couldn't wrap around what it was. And yeah, it freaked me out because he ended up like capturing
Very big,
the
like,
person in the
Babadook energy.
forest, and it was just terrifying. It scared the shit out of me.
They have a crow as well. I'm pretty sure it's a crow or like an owl or something in that ad that like its head spins around Exorcist
Yeah, like
style.
yeah.
Like times.
Yeah, there was something about it. Like again, like it harks back to the what you were saying about you have one of those what are they called when they turned around? They spin around, and they would be multiple.
Microwave?
No, the light source that would make the images move and it would spin around really really
Oh,
fast.
as a trope.
Zoetrope, yeah. the Zodra, he moved just like that, as if it took out a few frames, and he would be.
Oh yeah,
It,
yeah,
it
yeah.
did the same
And this
thing.
guy, the actor that they had to like play him was like an ex ballet dancer, so he kind of like was able to like prance around in such a way. Like you said, I actually loved that description. The idea that he kind of moved around like a spider.
Yeah.
Or kind of like a male witch or something. You know what I mean? They kind of had him like that kind of way. And like to be honest, like I get like the figure actually is quite creepy. He kind of looks like a weird demented like Jack Frost kind of. I have like two very small things. Do you remember a show called Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids?
Yes. Fair. I vividly remember that.
That show. The opening to that show fucked my shit up, right? And like it's one scene in particular. It's one very very particular thing in this in the opening intro that freaked me out. So if you guys haven't seen this, it was this British show, and that was basically like it was like an anthology kind of show that had like two or three maybe kind of like horrific things for kids, where it'd be like, don't be greedy or you'll fucking be as big as a house and then you'll die, like that kind of shit, like little cautionary tales for kids, grizzly tales for gruesome kids. And the opening is this kid that goes into like a movie theater, right? And it's a different style of animation to the rest of the show. It's it's that claymation again.
Yeah.
And this kid like has like he like looks down at his popcorn and it's like worms or like roaches or whatever, but like when he looks behind, he gets like tapped on the shoulder and he like goes to like look behind him, and up on the screen behind the screen we see the projectionist, who is this like fucking creepy old British man. He walks past, hold on, I'll just show you. He walks past like this, like, and kind of like lurches his back, and I remember just that as a kid always fucked me up. And like when I first started kind of like hanging out with people and like walking home by myself at night, that kind of shit, like that's like the image that would like go through my head. But again, it's like that, the kind of spider thing, it's like it moved at a weird frame rate that my mind just like like cringed at, like it just didn't enjoy it at all. And then the other kind of thing, like TV show thing that like freaked me out, the X-Files really fucking got to me as a kid.
Oh God, I know where you're going with this.
No, but like I'm not even going to talk about the episode where that guy can like squeeze in through like vents and stuff like that. There's one episode in particular that fucked my shit up. Somebody took a piece of my shit and stuck their dick in it. It fucked my shit right up. Too much.
A little too much.
No, anything to do with aliens. Anything to do with aliens as a kid. Very like specific type of aliens, like not the xenomorph, but like more humanoid things. Just freaked me out. I'll get to that in just a second. But there was one episode in particular. And do you remember they used to show the X-Files on Sky One in the morning before school?
Yes.
Why would you do that to me? I would be watching like fucking Yu-Gi-Oh on Sky One, and then the X-Files would be next. Bro. And I would watch like an episode of the X-Files or two before going to school kind of most mornings at like between the ages of like 6 and 9 or something. And there's one episode in particular where this kid, like you said earlier, this kid had a thing where there's something under his bed or whatever like that. And the dad goes to like look under the bed. And like looking back on it now, it's actually not that scary at all. Like at all. But like you saw little like things like crawling under the bed, and just like the X-Files theme as well, like really fucked me up. But like my last point was the full techno remix. But the movie Signs, when I was a child,
I know where you're going with this.
Me. Oh no, look, because me and my mom rented it, right? Me and my mom said, it's the new Mel Gibson and it's only rated 12, so great, let's get it. Brought it home. My mom immediately falls asleep because that was the kind of movie watching partner my mom was. We would go to the cinema and my mom would be like, I'm just gonna rest my eyes for a sec. You know, what parents do.
Yeah.
But we watched the movie, and I remember, I think the first time we actually like see the alien, and this still freaks me out. This like still really freaks me out. Um, Mel Gibson is talking to his daughter or whatever like that, and she's like, "Can I have a glass of water? There's a monster outside my room," and like that sentence alone made me like,
What?
as a kid, I was like, "Wait, but if it's outside your room, like, how the fuck did you get out of your room? That didn't even make any sense. Make it make sense." But he's like talking to her, and he kind of like dismisses it or whatever. They're having like a fucking conversation about faith because like Mel Gibson in this movie, and he looks up out of the window and kind of has like a double take, and then looks up again, and there's this like tall, distended like silhouette just standing up on top of the roof.
Oh,
oh, so creepy. And then the scene, like every scene with the aliens in there is just fucked up. Like the scene in the cornfield,
yeah.
where he like where it's such a perfect jump scare. We get like just the corner of a foot stepping back into the cornfield. Freaked me out. But I think the one moment that I think everybody universally agrees upon and is kind of the moment from Signs is like the kids they're all like speaking in Spanish. It's like the Spanish birthday party, and the kids like, "It's behind." And then this alien, no, first Joaquin Phoenix is like, "Move, children, vámonos." He's like, just like, get out of the way. But then this scene, just unimaginably terrifying. This alien just like walks out, and all it does is walk across the screen kind of slowly. We see it in full light, but it's just, it's actually talking about like Bravo's 100 scariest movie moments. So the girl who talks there, she talks about this movie when they're on it. She goes, "I think I did what everybody in the theater did at that moment," and like when that happened, and just went, and like I agree. I think when everybody saw that, everybody literally just like flipped out.
Jump
that
back.
movie was so, but that movie was so scary, and I remember like the way they set that clip up was so terrifying, because the way the like newscaster is like, "The footage we're about to show you may disturb you," and I remember being like, "I'm disturbed. That was disturbing. Something else disturbed me." I couldn't get over it. It was so terrifying. And then like from that moment on, I was like, if a creature is gonna come and get me, that's what it's gonna look like.
Wow. Like a tall, thin, distended person. Wow. Racism, I guess. Interplanetary xenophobia.
I'm skinny shaming. No, but like I remember having like very vivid dreams of like kind of like shadowy, kind of, because we don't actually ever see like much detail on those creatures. They're kind of just like vaguely like humanoid shapes. We don't get much like face detail, and like I had like such vivid nightmares of like like tall, thin, like black shadowy creatures in that kind of shape, just like getting me. Just ugh.
Yeah.
Aliens, get out of here.
to very quickly sort of bounce off that before I move on to kind of the final point of what we're talking about is, do you remember the film The Fourth Kind?
Oh, that was another I dare you to this movie.
Fucked me up. That scene where she's having these sort of flashbacks while she's listening to the tape recorder of her abduction, and like it's first person view where it just turns over to her door, and it creaks open so slowly, and all of these five really tall shadows just float into the room so quickly, and she's like lifted up, like literally just lifted up out of the bed by nothing and pulled into the corner of the room, like out of the house. Scary, terrifying. But
just very, very, very quickly before we move on from Aliens, just because like I don't feel like we're ever going to talk about like this movie. Do you remember the McPherson tapes?
Oh my god! Oh my god! Fuck me with a rake. Goddamn, that scared the shit out of me.
No, there's two scenes. I'll be very, very quick. There's two scenes in that in particular.
What is that shit on your
There's
finger?
one where it's a string.
Oh, I was just like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, there's one scene in particular. It's right before like everything starts to go down, where everybody's like having dinner at Thanksgiving, and again, this is all presented like kind of like as a snuff film, like as a found footage thing, but like back back when like Blair Witch was the only other kind of found footage that we had to compare it to. There's a scene where but the guy who's recording goes into his room to like get changed or something like that. And then and it's like it's a dark room, right? And he turns like into the corner. He like looks into the corner of the room, and like it's all black, right, with like one tiny little like light source. I think it's like the moonlight or something.
Yeah.
And just like out the corner, we just see this like big white like bald head just like really, really slowly like emerge out of the darkness
my God.
just come towards the camera. And I remember me and my nanny watching that on like Sky Horror and Sci-Fi, and both of us literally just being like, like just not being able to like take it. It was so scary, but it was so good.
Yeah.
It's like one of the last movies that I remember really genuinely like freaking me out, and it's so corny. It's so corny watching it again, but like. I don't know. I think, like, yeah, there's something to do with aliens that just freak me out. Again, it all goes back to kind of Uncanny Valley. The idea of something being humanoid but not human is very, like, disturbing to the human psyche, I think.
Yeah. No, it's a really, really interesting thought because, again, like, that's, like you just said, it's the Uncanny Valley. It's the weird because they are humanoid. They do look like us, but they don't look like us. And we know that because their head is slightly bigger, or the eyes are too big and the mouth is too small, or all of this, or the fingers are too long, or all of or they're too tall, or they're too thin, or something like this. Just, like you can recognize it on a mental level, but you can also disconnect from it because there's a cutoff point where like no, something is off, and you can't like, mentally person accept
isn't human.
It.
Like they're not human enough. They're not quite. They're not quite like me.
Yeah.
You know? And
I told you. Internalize interplanetary xenophobia. Look at that! Wow. The last thing before we kind of wrap all this up, the last thing I really wanted to talk about were these safety PSAs that I remember vividly from when I was younger. This was like very early 2000s, maybe even like late 1999. And I remember sitting in my parents' bedroom. We had a small TV, and the first one was the threat of nuclear meltdown. How to react to that as the Irish population if there was, and I remember it vividly, it was one of the nuclear plants in England, and how a meltdown there would affect Ireland, i.e. atomic rays going into clouds in atomic rain and acid rain and all of that destroying Ireland and blah blah blah, and how this radiation and how this would really, really affect Ireland, that we would have to go into bunkers or like crops would die and people would starve and all of this type of thing, where people would start dying of cancer and all of this, and how horrible it was. And the other one was the threat of nuclear or atomic bombing, which was a very short PSA, but I remembered the way they made this clear to people was how bright and how quick that it burns through your flesh, is that it is so strong.
Oh, I do remember these.
It was terrifying. Like it just it
like get under the table at school and all that kind of shit.
Yes, it fucking horrified me because like they showed you shots of, I think it's either Hiroshima or Nagasaki, where the flash would literally leave your shadow embedded on whatever was around you, because that's how strong the burning effect was, that the instant these rays hit you, you are incinerated. And my thoughts immediately went to this anime that gives you a 5-minute long shot of how you know like exactly what I'm about to talk about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. The clip, the part with the mother and the child where the kid just melts away and the mother like throws herself in front of it.
How strongly this affected me was I literally came out of watching these things, and this was like a half an hour thing that was like on RTE or some shit like that, or TV Car or something. And it was on late in the afternoon, and we were told like this is we need to sit down so we all know what to do in the event of things like this. And I watched it, and I remembered being absolutely horrified, thinking like, oh my god, is this gonna happen? Are we gonna die? Are we gonna, like, thrown into full panic attack mode? And I remembered for like 2, 3, 4 weeks, even months afterwards, thinking like at any moment I could be bombed by America or Russia, or the nuclear meltdown in England would destroy Ireland and we'd never recover, and that would be the end of all life as we know it. And like the existential dread and fear that I had from watching these things just fucked me up as a kid, and that was one that I really, really remembered, and I'll never forget it. To kind of really wrap this up, I kind of want to I have a statement kind of prepared for this kind of thing where, like, that whole, like, it feeds into that existential dread of huge fears, just like that, where we continue to have this relationship with our own mind that creates the monsters that we perceive. It's not always something that we see on TV, or that with this, it's something that innately we create and we continue to feed as we grow older. And exactly, things like agoraphobia, or things like suddenly like the earth losing gravity, like those are the real monsters, and that monster tends to live. That ultimate monster is in our own head. It's our own mind that creates these things, and that's truly kind of where these childhood traumas stem from. So yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like the mind is its own worst enemy kind of thing. You know, it's like the mind is only as fucked up as the mind allows the mind to be.
Exactly.
You know,
it's called.
What's fucked up is that the mind named itself the mind.
Yeah. So
the brain named itself the brain. But yeah.
So to wrap this up, we have an announcement again, as we always do, by the end of this, and we have a very special one this week because we have another themed month coming up. Lee, tell us what that is.
Okay. I, being the homosexual of the group, will announce. So next month being Pride Month, 52 years of Pride, I believe. Or 51.
I think it's 52. I think it's 52.
Next Pride Month. So we're going to be having a themed month of all things queer horror.
Yeah.
So we will be starting the month off with kind of the queerest horror movie that anybody could kind of think of. Rocky Horror, the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
God, I'm so fucking excited for this movie. I love it. The campiness.
Our current show title's namesake, you know, comes from Rocky Horror.
Course, the SLAB.
I'm so excited for this. And the next episode could be very exciting. We have some things in the works, possibly, and stay tuned.
Yeah.
And again, because it's a theme month, we'll be leaving the third episode of the month up to you guys for a vote.
Yes. So just like we had last month, we have a double selection each month from now on. Well, except for this month, we already have the topic selection in mind. We know what we're going to do, considering it's Pride Month. Our last, the topic discussion coming up will be queer and LGBTQ plus IA, all that, representation in horror and how it's viewed. So it's going to be a very diverse topic to really discuss. I'm really, really excited to talk about that. And then, of course, we will have the selection process for the third week of the month. So yeah, it's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait to really dive into everything. And next week's going to be an absolute campy mess. I love it.
Yeah, I'm excited. So that's been the SLAB.
Come up and see what's on the SLAB. So, as always, of course, like, subscribe, comment below if you have any movie recommendations that you want us to retrospect. If you have any topics, if you can think of anything that we haven't thought of, let us know. If you liked or didn't like what this was or what that was, please don't be afraid to let us know. Hit up the comment section, and don't forget to follow the Instagram for daily content updates. And yeah, you've been listening to
Also, spread the fucking word.
Yeah.
Spread the fucking word.
Yeah. We're trying to hit 50 followers, so get us to our goal, and we'd really appreciate it. We've got some really awesome stuff down the line, so keep it coming, keep it rocking, and stay spooky, I guess.
And fuck off and bye.